Hey, in this video, I want to talk about some of the best teams that have never won a World Cup, some of the best footballing nations. A lot of countries have come close in the past to winning it, and historically have gone down as sides who had a very good chance of doing so. And in this video, I wanted to pay homage to those sides, talk about some of the teams that have come close before I ultimately um, reveal who, in my opinion, is the greatest footballing nation to have never won a World Cup. So first off, I want to talk about Portugal. And I want to state first that my criteria is a soccer country that has reached the semifinals at least once. If they reached the final and lost, that's even better. And Portugal is one team who has gotten to the World Cup semifinals twice. They finished in third in 1966. They finished in fourth place in 2006. And really for the last 20 to 25 years, Portugal has emerged onto the big scene, becoming a Western European and really a global soccer powerhouse. They had a lot of really young, promising youth teams in the 80s and the 90s, but they really did not splash onto the big scene in senior men's World Cups until the 2000s, and they've qualified for every World Cup since 2002. Portugal is definitely up there, especially if we're talking about current-day teams in 2018, among the best to have never won a World Cup. Up until Euro 2016, I considered Portugal to be the greatest footballing nation to have never won any major international trophy at the men's senior level ever. And that changed when they won Euro 2016, finally coming out of the shadow, living in the majority of Western Europe's, having to look up to them and all their past glory. Portugal finally achieved some of their own gold, and good for them because they fully deserved it. Are they the best footballing nation to have never won the World Cup historically? Well, right now, I think they are one of the two best in the current day to have never won it, but historically, the answer is no. That brings me all over to Sweden. Little known fact, Sweden reached the final of the World Cup in 1958 on home soil when they lost to Pelé's Brazil, who won the World Cup for the first time. Sweden were a footballing powerhouse for much of the 1940s and the 1950s. They always produced really decent teams all the way up until the 90s when they finished in third place, I believe. I think they also came in third or fourth at some World Cup in the 1930s as well. So Sweden has been to 4 World Cup semifinals at least, as recently as USA 1994, which is not that long ago. They finished in third place in the World Cup held on U.S. soil, the last one held on U.S. soil. A really good side in the early 2000s as well, with the likes of Henrik Larsson, a younger Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Rosenberg. And Sweden was a really strong Olympic contender during Olympic gold medal games throughout the early to mid 20th century. And I think they may have won a gold medal here or there, but Sweden very much were a powerhouse. And they could have won the World Cup on home soil in 1958. They really came very close to doing so. So Sweden is another team. Another one is the Czech Republic, or better known as historically Czechoslovakia. This countries actually, they finished runners-up in the World Cup twice. A really sort of sad legacy to leave behind because they never went all the way. They finished runners-up in the 1934 and 1962 World Cups, where they lost the final against Italy and Brazil, respectively. They did, however, win Euro 1976, which that final against West Germany gave birth to the fabled Panenka penalty scored by Antonin Panenka, and so that was quite memorable. They reached the final of the 1996 World Cup. Oh, no, excuse me, the 1996 European Championship, 20 years later, where they lost in a rematch to Germany. They also had a really good team in the 2000s as well. Go watch my video on the Czech Republic that I made a few months ago. I talked about how they were once one of the most powerful sides in the world for a very long time and were unfortunate not to win the World Cup. But, you know, Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, they're up there too. The next team is another tale of once golden, is Hungary. And I made a video about Hungary as well. You can go check that out. I also made that a few months ago. The mighty Magyars of the 1930s on to the 1950s. Hungary, just like Czechoslovakia, Hungary finished in the runners-up position in 2 World Cups. They were in 1938 and in 1954. And 1954 really being the most tragic because they really should have won that tournament. They entered the final against West Germany, taking a 2-0 lead, only to then lose that 3-2 after Germany came from behind in what is now considered the miracle of Bern. This was Hungary, that team with the likes of Ferenc Puskás. They entered that tournament and that final with a 4-year undefeated streak, and they really should have won the World Cup that year. And then ever since then, they were never quite the same. They had a decent side in 1982 that thrashed El Salvador in that World Cup, but Hungary sort of disappeared from the limelight ever since then. It is honestly one of the more sadder, maybe the saddest story of an international soccer team that really fell from grace, so to speak. But they're not the greatest footballing country to have never won the World Cup. The greatest one, I think a lot of you already know. It's the Netherlands. Total football, Johan Cruyff, the Orange Army. The Netherlands have the infamous record of having finished runners-up in the most World Cup finals of any team that have never won the World Cup. Now, Germany has finished runners-up 4 times, but they've also won the World Cup 4 times. And the Netherlands, unfortunately, 1974, then again consecutively in 1978, and then in 2010, all silver medalists. A lot of people wonder what might have been if one of the teams from the 70s had won the World Cup, but they both lost the final, both in 74 and 78, to both host nations, West Germany and Argentina. Finished runners-up in 2010 against Spain. Finished in 3rd place in the 2014 World Cup, though I thought they very well could have gotten to the final again. So it is the Netherlands, and the Netherlands has such a rich history in this sport, just like the other nations I mentioned, but the Netherlands really are a team that a lot of people one day would like to see win a World Cup. I would like to see it too, to be honest. They're not doing very well right now. They have not qualified for the last 2 major tournaments in Euro 2016 and World Cup 2018, but I have a feeling they'll be back one day. I think they'll be back one day. But yeah, the Netherlands are the greatest team, the greatest international soccer country that has never won the World Cup, in my opinion. So leave a comment below, like, subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, God willing. Until then, have a good one. Much love and peace out.